Hello and welcome to another Reaconteur video, and in today's video I'm going over what you guys should be expecting with Type Soul's third re-release under Cetro with its major changes and updates. Make sure to subscribe since only about 20% of the people watching right now are actually subscribed. Now let's get straight into it. Starting with some basic stuff, main world elo and ranked is going to continue to be a thing. However, it will be resetting monthly from now on, so Espada, Captain, Sternritter ranks and all of that will be redistributed monthly based on the overworld PvP rankings, so I'll probably be playing a bit of that. Now, of course, the PvP arena will still exist as it is with Elo, and it's also going to be resetting monthly as it did before. I might be playing ranked, but honestly, it really depends on the rewards because personally, I don't care too much about the ranked arena. It's not bad because I like the fighting in this game, but it's whatever really. Now, along with that, there are some major changes, which the biggest additions are going to be Hell and then Fullbringers, which are pretty much confirmed at this point due to sneaks and developer statements. But all of this stuff is going to be coming with some major rehauls to lore, progression, story quests, and modes, and even UIs and PvE. For example, the chat UIs are no longer ugly, bland black boxes with unicolored text like they used to be, and are now much more stylized with better animations and aesthetics as a whole, which is good. In fact, the entire game is looking significantly more stylized because originally Type Soul was kind of a sandbox, and even upon its second re-release, it really felt basically like a Battlegrounds game where the combat shined for being fun and unique and movement-based. And although Type Soul was initially seen as a Deepwoken-inspired PvP based Bleach game, its combat flourished on its own with unique movement and combo systems not seen anywhere else on Roblox, which is where I think it succeeded. The combat was unique, like lots of games will try and copy Deepwoken exactly and they never do it properly, but Type Soul decided to be more freeform with it and use their own mechanics and combo systems, and it paid off better. However, focusing on the combat and early release, a closed community game, which was what Type Soul was initially, it was released way too early due to popular demand, which resulted in what was pretty much kind of an aesthetics mess because in all honesty, the game wasn't pretty, the maps were kind of bland, and the UIs were kind of just an insult to visual design. But people liked it because the PvP was great, and now it seems like they're incorporating a lot more actual gameplay elements into Type Soul that aren't entirely focused on PvP, because they're adding a tutorial, an actual tutorial now that's half decent, with stuff like new NPCs offering unique lore additions other than just being strictly enclosed to the Bleach universe. Which means this re-release will also be coming with a new storyline of some sorts that will probably be made to guide players from early to endgame. This also means that the game will be having a lot of new PvE additions, because from just sneaks we've seen at least 4 entirely new areas and multiple massive map reworks, as well as new maps in relation to Hell. And, you know, we have seen at least 1 or 2 boss-looking figures that aren't just the PvE boss and the PvE boss fighting mode, which I think is good. I think the game needed more PvE raid events that were actually good, because the boss mode was kind of forced onto players with trade limitations and endgame loot being stuck on certain bosses, while those bosses were blatantly unfair in their AI. Meanwhile, the bosses in the overworld kind of sucked with stuff like Bawa Bawa being a big worm who spams 2 moves. Some more intricate, better bosses with good rewards that'll actually be fun to fight is great for the game. And back to stylization, there's going to be much better visuals and cutscenes for mode activations, which we've seen a lot of Sternritter shift ones and Sclavy Rise and finishers like the new Essence move system, which I'll talk a bit more about later, as well as stuff like Superstar getting new cutscenes, and basically they're just trying to make the game a lot prettier, which is good because I think the aesthetics of the game before weren't the best. Now as for gameplay, they did add a style meter, which is interesting. It's clearly inspired by the Doom and Ultra Kill aesthetic, where your grade increases off of different hits landed and damage dealt over time without getting hit. So you get hit, you drop in style. Now the style meter is actually pretty important, as it will be required to use certain moves like Essence moves, which will require an S or higher rank in order to use depending on the move, which I think is a good balancing change, so people can't spam Essence moves and do 2 bars of damage. So now if you're trash at the game, you can't crutch on Essences. Great. I kind of just wish they'd do something similar to skill box moves, where certain skill box moves would require maybe a B or an A, so you wouldn't make it super high, but people shouldn't be able to just start a fight with like lame skill box move, because they're kind of crutchy. And I know I say that because I don't use skill boxes or Essences or anything like that and never have, but I'm going to stand on that hill. Now there will also be a massive overhaul and rework for the entire medic skill tree, which seems to be surgery based now, and the move names, as well as seeming like a combat medic tree now with much more solo PvP capabilities instead of like being completely support based, with moves like throwing rods, jailing rods, self-surgery, and organ displacement, as well as much more. So medical malpractice has officially been added to Type type soul. Now, that's actually really good though, because I don't think a support skill tree really ever fit in this game. It's a PvP based game primarily that they were trying to put PvE in with their new bosses and all that, but honestly, I didn't like the boss mode, and making medics required to do the boss mode, because if you didn't, you'd pretty much just lose, was kind of just like a forced way to make their PvE based skill tree viable in a PvP based game, because, you know, people needed to do the boss mode because it was forced onto them through high endgame loot, which you could only get from there and couldn't be traded. So making medic more of a combat medic thing and making it more PvP viable while still having support capabilities is, in my opinion, the best thing they could have done with it. I hope they finally did something non-obnoxious with medic, because my worst experience with a medic was pre-nerf, like pre all the nerfs. It was in the ranked arena when it first came out. A medic siphoned all of my Reiatsu and leech healed both of us for 12 or 15 minutes, leading to a draw because the ranked arena's timer, which was like 15 minutes, went down. I reported that guy, and I don't know if he's banned, but I pray to God that he is, because someone like that doesn't deserve to be on this planet. And if you're watching this video and you remember that, I hate you. And if you comment, leave a comment down below. I will find you and I will kill you. Anyway, sorry. Also, Clan Wars got some UI overhauls and reworks, and now you can choose like which character slots you want to lock in, which is cool. I didn't play much Clan Wars before, but it's good that you can be more flexible, and it's just a good quality of life change. And also, very big change, but hybrid races have officially been removed from the game, which honestly good. I think they were a pretty bad addition from the start, and they were added for build flexibility, but they were kind of underutilized by anyone not making a build for one specific cheese strat that they'd abuse in rank. And then it'd get nerfed and nobody was actually using hybrids, so, you know, nobody wanted to be a hybrid. So removing them and compensating hybrid players, in my opinion, is the best choice they could have done, instead of trying to make hybrids work, because they're fundamentally flawed. The only reason people would run them was like, hey, let me see if this move and this move work together. Oh, they do, and they actually guarantee a hit for a bar of damage. Yeah, let me use that. And then, you know, people would use that, it'd get nerfed, and then they'd be like, oh, this hybrid's trash now because the one thing carrying it isn't good. That was bad. That was really bad for the game. So I'm happy they're getting rid of them. Now, the biggest thing they're adding, well, I guess the two biggest things, which I mentioned earlier, are going to be Hell and Fullbrings. Starting with Fullbringers. Fullbringers are going to be a completely new race, and with their addition, every player will be given a new character slot for free, which is very nice of the devs. Not too much is known about Fullbringer, but we have seen their Bonkai equivalent activation and armor, which is known as a Fullbring, which comes with it. And said armor is supposed to change between your different Fullbring versions or elements. And the devs also said not to really expect any new elements for now, except the Fullbringer modes, because that's what most of their stuff has been on as far as like Shikai's and Res and Shrifts go. So yeah, pretty much just a lot of new Fullbring stuff. Now, as for Hell, it's going to be a new endgame part of the game, which has different mapped arenas or areas known as rings. So I think it's safe to assume that there will be 7 rings to Hell based on, you know, the 7 rings of Hell and the 7 sins, right? And they're all supposed to be like differently themed areas of Hell, which is really cool, and it really reminds me a bit of Deep Woken's Depth Slayers, with the rings of Hell all being themed differently, with ring 1 being fiery and burning lava, while ring 2 looks more like some sort of grand archive or library. And the devs also said that they want it to be a high stakes as an area. Now, I doubt this means permadeath. Type Soul has really never involved like permadeath mechanics deeply, outside of like temporary progress loss to the progression. So I have no idea what Hell's high stakes are going to be, but it is going to introduce a lot of new PvE and some PvE related stuff though, like artifacts, which will be like end game items and charm stuff, which are supposed to give you special effects unrelated to your armor, which we haven't seen yet extensively, but they're going to be artifacts. I think they're going to be kind of like Rogue Lineage artifacts, maybe a bit less strong than those, because like if you remember what Phoenix Feather is, then that was bad. And for those of you who don't know, so you don't feel like you're out of the loop, Phoenix Feather in Rogue Lineage would let you turn your health bar, or no, it would let you heal yourself using your hunger bar by holding down G to charge mana. So pretty much if you had a full hunger bar, you could hold down G and just heal your full health bar. And that was stupid. That shouldn't exist. They had to remove it from that game.
Why does that ragdoll for so long?
Exactly, no, bro.
What is
move,
that?
Bro. What the fuck is that move?
But yeah, that's I'm hoping they're not that strong in this game. Now, another thing also confirmed is going to be the 1000-Year Blood War update, which is confirmed by Christy, a member of the dev team, to be coming sometime after Hell's update and the re-release, which means that after the re-release, the next major update that's going to release is going to be the 1000-Year Blood War update, which is funny because that exists in Bleach as it is and it's finished, but Hell isn't finished in the actual Bleach verse, which I just think it's kind of funny. But as a whole, it sounds pretty good. Now, of course, Stark nerfs are coming once again, with the Segunda moves being parryable and blockable now. I hate when they nerf my thing. Cero Corazon gets nerfed like every update. I'm going to whine about it in the Discord and change my build every week because of it. Just kidding, that's for pussies, I'll just adapt. Now, overall, I think this update is looking really good, and it's looking massive, like actually huge, which is pretty impressive. And I know that their dev team size is similar to the dev teams of Deep Woken, and they've gotten all of this done from what we've seen in like a year, maybe a bit less than a year. And then Deep Woken's major updates have been, when was the last major update? The World Events update, and that was technically not even supposed to come out like that, because that was half of an update with half the appeal of an update, as you know, it's supposed to come out with Conquest. So yeah, I don't know, these devs are really putting in the work in comparison to Deep Woken's, in my opinion. Not that Deep Woken's devs probably aren't putting in the work, they're just a bit lazy and like leaving things to the last minute, which leaves the community very, very, very annoying. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed. That's what most of you guys should just be expecting from the re-release update, and it'll be big, so make sure to subscribe. Check out myself on Twitch and the live channel. I'll be live Friday, and then I'll be back on my regular schedule of Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Hope you all enjoyed. Shoutouts to Green, Brick, High Card, Goobka, and Drizzy Drake Fan. I love you all. Have an amazing day, and goodbye.